It's the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Tune in. Tune in. Tune in. Tune in.
What's the reality of self-management been like for you? Because I mean, people kind of have different thoughts. From the people I've met and spoken to who do self-manage all or some of their properties, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a hassle if you have systems in place. So can you talk to us more about what it's been like for you? I guess kind of you can even mention what it was like early on and how you've developed and changed systems to now.
So early on, I was bad. Because I also lived super close to my tenants, right? I might live next door or I might live upstairs. And so I didn't have the same boundaries, and I also wasn't teaching yet. So I started teaching the year after I bought my first property. And I think as I grew, this is definitely the spot where you see my teacher the most, right? Because as a school teacher, when you have students, you have their boyfriends and their girlfriends because they come to the classroom where they do stupid stuff they shouldn't be doing. You got administrators, you have parents, you have all these people who want all these things from you all the time. You have to learn to set boundaries or you're going to run yourself ragged. Right? These are my office hours. This is when I respond to email. This is what you will get from me outside of the classroom. Like, being very clear keeps your sanity. Mm-hmm. And that's what it has become with tenants, right? It's very clear, like, I will have office hours. Don't get me wrong. I will respond if it's an emergency, but this is not a luxury hotel where at any hour somebody is willing or ready to wait on you. Like, to be quite frank, you don't pay enough for that kind of service. Your rent is $400, bruh. Oh, your rent is $1,000. Like, you don't pay enough for that kind of access to my time. Yeah. So, I think it is a lot easier than people think. I think what the hardest part is not everybody is willing to say no. Not everybody is willing to see a phone call and not answer it, right? People want to help or people want to be liked, and that gets in the way of being a good property manager. Like, I had a tenant call about a clogged toilet, right? And she called it like Saturday at 8. I didn't pick up. I know it was a clogged toilet because I listened to the voicemail. Because I do listen to the voicemail because she called 4 times in a row. So I'm like, clearly something's up. And in my mind, I'm like, you need to get a plunger. And you need to plunge the toilet. Because she hadn't done that, right? She was just like, it's not. And I didn't answer. Because you have a plunger. I make sure you have a plunger to avoid these phone calls. And I called her back the next morning, and she was like, "Oh, I figured it out." And I was like, "Oh yeah." I like, in my mind, I'm like, "Of course you did, because you had to, because your toilet wasn't working, right? And you have a plunger." And it would be different if she was like, it was flooding, right? If the water was flooding, because that would be something I do have to deal with now. I need to call my person and get there over there, but it won't flush because. But I know other managers, or I know other people who are starting out who might get up at 2 a.m. and go over there, because I was that person at one point. And then it was my husband who was like, you can't do this. You can't be on call all the time. It's not fair to you, and it's not fair to us, and it's not fair to everything that you are constantly, at any point, everything could stop because someone called you. Yeah. Right? So it is not very difficult. What's hardest is, can you set the boundaries? Okay? Can you stick to what you said you were going to do in the time frame you said you were going to do it, in order to make sure people don't take advantage or that you don't get burnt out?
Definitely. And to that end, what has been your most challenging tenant experience that you can recall?
Oh boy, most challenging. So I'll tell you 2 stories. One was not mine, but I think it shows the difference between like maybe culture versus just being rude, or just like difference. One of my mentors, one of the people that I have bought properties from, he said he got a phone call that someone brought a goat in the house. Right? Yes. So and he was like, the tenant downstairs called and was like, yo, they just brought a goat upstairs. And he's coming into this like, yo, I said no pets. Like, I don't care if it's a goat. It might be a small bill. Like, he didn't know. He assumed like a little goat or something. And he goes upstairs and he's like, I remember I said no pets. And they were like, we don't have any pets in here. And they said, no. He said, no, the goat. And he's like, oh, that's not the pet. That's dinner. And he was like, what? And they showed him the bathroom and they had slaughtered the goat. And the goat was draining in the tub. And he was like, they're like, oh, it'll be gone by tonight. And he was like, wait, you know, like, like he didn't even know how to respond to it because it wasn't a pet, right? But you can't. And then he also didn't have a reason to say like no, right? Because it was clean. They were draining it over they had their drain already. They had their snake ready in case the fur clogged that. It was crazy, and he talks about that with such disdain because he was so mad. And I think it's so funny because that is definitely like a cultural line, right? That is a difference. And so now he has to put in his lease, like, you may not slaughter animals like in the units.
Yeah.
So that's more like they didn't know. And they genuinely, I genuinely feel like they didn't see anything wrong with what they were doing. They were like, oh, it's cheaper just to buy the goat. And of course, I'm going to walk up. Why am I going to carry a dead goat upstairs? They're going to walk up and kill it upstairs. Like, duh, I got the shower rod. That's when we hang the corpse. Like, what are you talking about? So that's not a funnier aspect. My other one might also be slightly cultural, but this was with me. I bought some studio units, and they are like 350 square feet. So not very big. Perfect for one person. And a tiny, tiny dog, maybe a couple who is like, yo, we living cheap right now just to get ourselves together. But of course the building came occupied. So I had to go to each unit and meet the people, see what they had, see what was available. 2 tenants in particular who no longer live there. One, there were 3 people who were adults. Right, so grown people over 150 pounds, over 200 pounds. So these are not like stick thin people. And I bring that up because it was 340 square feet. There is not a lot of space in these units. And they had 2 dogs. And I couldn't kick them out because they were on a lease. Right, so that previous owner had signed these tenants. And that's what I mean about, like, sometimes you're like, it would have been easier if it was empty, right? And like, I know I'm gonna get a check maybe. And I have to tell them, like, yo, no one else can live here.
Yeah.
I don't even know how you're surviving in this space. And they were like, oh man, I'm glad you said that because we were going to get another dog. And I'm like, it's 300 square feet. Like and these are not tiny dogs. These are pits. These are big dogs. And there was another couple, who was 2 couples. It was a couple, so 2 people, and 2 like 100-pound pit bulls. And you're just like, and I have pit bulls. I'm pit bull friendly, love pit bulls. But the space, like, how do you, of course, they don't want to walk their dogs, right? They want to let the dogs run free, but not everyone likes pit bulls, and these are not trained animals. And it was just a mess to try to get them to be like, yo, what can we do to get you to leave? Because this is not going to work. It's not big enough. And they were also the loud ones. They had stuff wrong. And when one abandoned the unit, and when I walked in and there was poop just everywhere. And you're like, he left yesterday. This didn't come last night, which meant you were living like this. You know, like you were living in this space. There's poop in the mattress, there's poop. And it was just outrageous. So that would probably be my worst of just when you have old tenants who have bad habits, especially if the other landlord, not only did they allow it, they wrote it in the lease allowing it. That's when things can be rough because you have to legally abide. I can't kick you out, and I can't require you to get rid of your dogs, and I can't require you to walk your dogs because in the lease it says you can let them out and they can run. So you have to like wait out that 1 year period, and hopefully it's maximum 1 year you have to wait. But those are my worst.
Wow.
Yeah.
Definitely. On a more positive note, so, you were able to leave your job as a school teacher in pretty quick. I mean, within 5 years. What made you feel comfortable enough to make that move and just kind of work on being an investor full time?
I think I want to be completely honest. I think one of the big things was that I am a science teacher. I'm a Black female science teacher at the secondary level. And I say that to say I knew if I needed to get a job, I can get one, even now. Like if I needed to go back full time, I could be like, hey, will someone hire me full time? And there would be offers because I was good at what I did and I am a hot commodity. So it felt easier to leave because I knew if I had to go back, I could.
Are you looking for a community of like-minded individuals and access to experts in real estate?
Yeah.
Are you interested in real estate but need more support and guidance?
You know who it is?
The Black Real Estate Dialogue presents the Real Estate Investing Community. No matter how much or how little real estate experience you have, we've created a community for you because your perspective is important. All right, tell me, where's the number one place where you can do Q&A with experienced guest speakers 2 times per month? How about unlimited access to past guest speakers' recordings? What about a private Slack channel to engage in daily discussion with everybody in the community to share resources and support each other? Head on over to blackrealestatedialogue.com. That's blackrealestatedialogue.com. It's the real estate investing community presented by the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Come join us today.
I think the thing that helped me is my 9-to-5 job. So I'm a consultant, but a lot of consulting is like project management within the project. So I applied a lot of the principles that I use on my day job to managing a rehab. So having a schedule, having regular check-ins. Big thing was just like payment and milestones. So you're not getting any money until these things are done. So it was nerve-wracking just because it's new and it's like my money. Now when I'm managing projects at work, it's a little bit different. But having that background definitely helped me a lot. And then I think I have been reading and studying. So that experience that I've already had with my job and then what I've learned through reading, I think helped me. But still very nerve-wracking. First time, like $15,000 now. Like I've done rehabs like 4 times that now, but then it's a big deal. So I think just relying on the skill that I already had and the knowledge that I've attained was kind of like what got me through. But it was a nerve-wracking for sure.
I'm sure it was. I can tell. But I mean, I think it's great that you pushed through that. You know, you were new. You knew enough to get to the finish line, but you persisted and you just figured it out. You know, and I think it's okay to be nervous, right? Like, even if you're buying something that's across the street from your apartment, it's a nerve-wracking experience. It's a big deal buying a house, whether you're living in or investing property. But I really do think it's very cool how you kind of just use what you had to get it done. So that's definitely very cool. And so where did your portfolio go from there?
So from there, I knew like I used a lot of all the capital I had in that one. So I was like, I gotta figure something out. So I brought in a partner and we were gonna purchase another rental. It ended up going sideways actually. So that was probably the second worst deal that I've actually ended up doing. But
what happened with that one? If you don't mind.
I think it was partly partnership. It wasn't a great fit in the partnership, and then just expectation setting. So going in, I knew somebody I went to school with, and I was like, hey, I know you're interested in real estate. I've done this one. I want to do another one. Like, let's partner. And she was all for it, but I think we had different mindsets and different ways of doing things. I learned a lot from her, but I'm willing to spend the money to get the results. She's way more budget conscious. So we ended up kind of skimping on some stuff because it would be an extra $300 here, extra $200 there. And so she was like, we're already over budget. We can't spend any more money. So I think that hurt us on the rehab, which hurt us on getting people in the door to look at it. And then I think on that too, we priced it too high. So we both thought we can get a little bit higher than we could for rent. And then when we weren't able to rent it, we couldn't agree on how low to drop the price. So we stayed stubborn on kind of keeping it too high. And then we were just like, let's sell it. Like, this is not going good, let's just sell it. And we ended up sitting on it for close to a year before we actually sold it. So I think it was just all bad from there. But around that same time, I purchased another rental by myself, and that's when I started using like private money. So private money, I think, has really helped me grow my portfolio, is working with private investors. So I think I bought that one on like a Thursday, and I closed on the other one like a Monday. And that second rental property that I tiled for myself is really what kind of pushed me and kept me going. But that was, again, I used private investors for that one, so no one kind of in the deal with me, and I could spend the way I wanted to spend and kind of get that one done. And I think that is what really kind of springboarded me into growing the portfolio, was that second deal that I did by myself and finding out and leveraging the power of private investors.
For sure.
I'm big on private investors because there's so much money around, and if you have the right network, some people have $5,000-$10,000 sitting around that. If you give them the right terms, they'll lend to you to do a deal. And that's what I've been able to do, is tap into my network and find those little pockets of money and people that see what I'm doing and believe in me. And that's how I've gotten to grow the portfolio like I have so far.
For sure, for sure. Can you talk to us more about how you work with private investors? It's something that a lot of listeners have shown interest in, and people in general, it's something they're very interested in, just finding other sources of money, because sometimes on your own, you may not have everything you need. So we'd love to learn more about how you work with private investors.
Yeah, so good. I read a book on it. So once I read it, was it Raising Private Money by it's by Bigger Pockets, David Green on I think it's David Green, but it's a Bigger Pockets book, but it's on raising private money. And it really just starts, the whole book. The book starts with like, you start with like your people around you, your core. So I went to one of my boys and I was like, I know he had a good job, and I was like, look, this is what I'm doing. Do you want to kind of put in on this? And he agreed, and that's what got me started. And now a lot of the people that I have as private investors, a lot of them, I would say majority of them, are people that I've gone to school with, like went to undergrad with. They have decent jobs, they're making decent money, and they've seen the work that I've done. So I think a lot of it, is building a brand. So I think if you refer to a lot of people that know me or like my friend group, like I'm the real estate guy. So part of me, like being the real estate guy, posting about what I'm doing, posting properties that I have already, people believe in it and they see the outcomes. So I think that was my personal brand, just people knowing me from school and knowing, hey, he was an all right student, he has an all right job already. So I'm pretty good steward over just financials and business. So that's how I've been able to raise money. And then I offer people that invest with me like 12% on their money. So the way I structure my deals is lend me the money based on a promissory note, 12% paid out. And then I either, if I'm selling, if I'm flipping, pay them out when I flip it, or if I'm going to keep it as a rental and refinancing it, they get paid out their principal when I finish that part of the transaction. But I think that's been the piece that's really helped me grow, is having those private investors around to help me do that.
For sure, for sure. And I also like how you talk about building a brand. I'm thinking about Instagram. And, I feel like as Black people, we are not taught self-promotion all the time. And, a lot of us would be better off, generally speaking, overall, real estate especially, if we tell people about what we're doing. If we tell our friends or those around us, those in our network, if we post about it on different platforms, whatever platforms we're on. And I find that opportunities come to you. Money comes to you when you put things out, so I think it's very cool. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's the only way for people to know. And I think that's a skill, like you mentioned it, and having it in real estate, but it's something that I learned from my corporate job, right? Like, if you're not your biggest advocate, no one's going to be a bigger fan for you than you. So I think that's another transferable skill that I took from the corporate world and applied to the real estate business to really grow it. So absolutely, absolutely. You have to be your own biggest fan, because no one's going to cheer louder than you for yourself. So 100% agree.
It's the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Tune in.